Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, your host, registered dietitian, and certified intuitive eating counselor. And tonight I have with me Elisheva Cohen. Hi, Elisheva.
Hi everyone. Hi Gila.
Hi. Hi. I'm really excited to have you on. And I'm just going to briefly say that this is our second time doing the interview. And I'm sure we'll get into it, haha, in the episode
Yes, we
that
will.
like why I didn't publish the first episode and why I brought you back on. Um, but let's start with just introduce yourself. Like, who are you? Where do you live? What do you do?
Okay. So, hi, I'm Elisheva Cohen. I am a mommy. I'm a wife. I am a special education teacher for the Board of Education in New York City. I'm also a DJ. I know that sounds so crazy, but
Very
I
cool.
actually am a
Yeah,
DJ,
yeah,
party motivator.
yeah.
My business name is Sisters B Simcha. And I am also a certified fitness instructor. I live in
Got it.
Inwood,
Okay.
and I have three yummy, delicious children. And now I'm here with you.
Yes. The DJ part is very cool, I have to say.
Pretty
Okay.
wacky. It's pretty
Yeah.
wacky.
Yeah. So I'll just like fill the listeners in a little bit. So I know you from the gym. You gave an awesome class, which I still really miss you. And your class was very motivating. And I always talk about like joyful movement, and I loved your class. And we discussed like a little bit outside of the class, like doing an episode on like your journey to fitness, right?
Yes.
So just to briefly say, like your journey to fitness started one way and it shifted. So I'm just gonna say this because I know this is like we're walking a delicate line. You're gonna explain how your journey started, and it might have started with one motivation and has now shifted and now has shifted even more. So I'm just saying that for listeners who might be sensitive to diet talk, and we're gonna shift. I'm gonna help you with the language, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Um, okay, so I would say this is going back probably after I had my third child, my son, who is now 4.5. Um, I remember going to Florida with my family for Pesach, and I remember after Pesach, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is it. I do not love what I'm seeing in the mirror. I am not loving that I am not fit. I'm not in shape. Like, I need to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that from that point after Pesach until the summer, I was really very, very strict about the things that I ate, exercised a lot. And I definitely lost a significant amount of weight and definitely changed my appearance.
Mm-hmm.
That was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. I'm still exercising a lot. I love it. It means so much to me. But like you said, it's definitely not for all of the reasons that I initially started. I think that I have learned really to see that it does so much more for my mind. Um, and it just makes me feel strong. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, I love it. I love it. And there's definitely been a shift, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
1 second. So let me just stop you for a second. So when you said you came back from Pesach, what was like like you said you wanted to lose weight, but were you ever into fitness? Like, did you know when you were younger, did you engage in exercise? You're a DJ, also you're a
No,
motivator. Was that like
right.
you're naturally fit, you're naturally athletic?
I would say I'm athletic. I always loved to play sports growing up. But we never worked out. We didn't like exercise a lot growing up. Um, it's something I think that came with time. I have a few, I'm one of four girls. And one of my older sister and I, she and I have almost been on like a fitness journey together, so to speak. We both love working out, just to be strong and healthy, and we motivate each other. But we weren't like that, and it wasn't stressed at home either, and there was no stress on like being careful with what we ate, which is a good thing, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, Looking back, I wish, and I always say this, like I wish for my family that we were like a family of movements.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like sitting around. That doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
me feel good. Like I like to
Yeah.
be active. Um, so that's something that I want for my family, but we're
Mm-hmm.
working on getting there.
Totally. Yeah, it's a process. So you started exercising. It was mainly to lose weight, and you did lose weight, and you were feeling great about it. You were happy about it. You were Um, yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, I was definitely happy about it. Um, the change, I was very rigid with the things that I was eating. I definitely was eating. Um, but I was like, I love sweet food. I love chocolate. I love candy. I still eat it. I love it. But I was very careful during that time, which I think is why I lost a lot of weight because, in a smaller amount of time,
Hmm.
I wasn't giving myself the opportunities to, have those delicious foods that I enjoy, which now I know is important for me to enjoy. And I trust me, I do.
Right.
Pesach with me and chocolate on Pesach,
Yeah.
forget about it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, but when you did start exercising, besides for the weight loss, like what changed for you? Like, was it just this like healthy outlet? Was it just like you realized how strong you actually were? Because your class, like, I know you're very fit, and I know your class is like a high intensity. It's a high intensity class.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely I'm pretty fit. I would say I'm pretty strong. There's always more to learn and grow, but over the time I saw that I felt so good after I worked out. I just felt
mhm,
strong. It was a tremendous stress reliever for me. Like
mhm,
to this day, I know that if I'm feeling really anxious about something or there's a lot going on, I'm like, okay. And my husband knows also. I'm like, yo, I gotta go for a run. Like,
mhm,
I'm a big runner and love running. Um, for me, that's one of my joyful movements, like you say.
mhm,
Um, it's very freeing. It's very empowering. Um, that's like my go-to. I'm
mhm,
more of like a cardio-based person, but talking about shifting, I also am really shifting a little bit into more doing like weight training to build, for strength. Like as you get
mhm,
older, you want to be strong
mhm.
because that's what's going to help you when you're,
Right.
as you get older.
Right. Anyways, that's important when it comes to movement, like to switch it up between cardio and resistance. Like you don't want to just stick to one.
Right, 100%.
Okay, so but the thing that I guess we're gonna pull apart tonight is that like that episode that we recorded, I ended up not publishing because I felt like it was emphasizing like I guess like how good you felt about the weight loss. And I felt like that wouldn't be in line with what I'm here to teach people. But then we reconnected on this topic and you did have a mindset shift. So what happened with that?
So I don't know exactly what caused the shift. I think it's also just like gotta live life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I definitely at the time, again, this is going back, a few years, was very consistent about, weighing myself, going on the scale. And I'm like, for what? Why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you feel good and then why do you need a scale? What does a number mean? So my husband actually took the scale and he hit it. I have no idea where it is. And this is going back a bunch of years. I have no idea what
Mm-hmm.
the scale says. Um, I'm more lenient about the foods that I put in my mouth. Anybody that knows me knows that I love to eat. I love food. I really
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And I allow myself to eat the foods that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not, I think, like with anything, it's an adjustment, and your mind is going through different thoughts. Like, oh, I want to eat the pizza. Okay, I'm gonna eat the pizza. And why I eat the pizza? But
Mm-hmm.
you have to forgive yourself. And
Right.
I'm sure you could talk a little bit about that and teach me a little bit about intuitive eating. When you want to eat something, right,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to allow it,
Right.
right, and listen to
It
your
it
body.
right. So maybe do you want to ask me questions now about like where you're feeling? Because like I don't it doesn't really go from like dieting to intuitive eating. There's like such a big spectrum and there's also like a lot of nuance. Like every client's different, every person's different, right? But I do think that I'm not going to take all the credit for this, but I'm just saying that I think that a lot of your story is not unique in the sense that um people want to lose weight, right? So they go on some form of manipulating their body, whether it's dieting or intense exercising or both, and then they get the result that they want. But then it takes over their mind. Like you obsessively weigh yourself and you're so strict about food, like almost like an OCD
Right.
point, right?
So I will say, disclaimer, Baruch Hashem, it was totally healthy with what I was doing. It doesn't match with intuitive eating, and it definitely
Mm-hmm.
was more from the diet culture, but
Mm-hmm.
I was healthy. There was no issue with it per se. But with that being said, yeah, I've definitely, since I've met you and learned a little bit about intuitive eating, just broadened my horizons, I think. I'm interested to hear a little bit about the shift you're talking about,
Mm.
because you're saying it doesn't jump from like diet culture to intuitive eating. It's almost like a mindset shift.
Right. It's a slow progression, number one. And number two, I think that because, like you said, like you were obsessively weighing yourself, so your husband hit the scale, right? So it's like for a lot of people, like they innocently start dieting, but then it becomes much, much more than that. What, even if it doesn't become an eating disorder, I always say like, I always say like think of like your life as like a pizza pie, right? Like a pie. And like let's say disordered eating, let's label it like that means like you're thinking about food 20 to 60% of your day, right? And the way that you started the interview is that you're a mommy and you're a wife and you're a special ed teacher and you're a fitness instructor and you're a Jew and you, right? So that's a lot of things in your pie. And you really you have this hobby of exercise, right? So if 20 to 60% of your day is thinking about food and exercise, then in an obsessive way, I mean, and weighing yourself, then yeah, that's great and healthy, I guess, but it's also really diminishing your quality of life because there's not enough room in your pie for like the things that really do matter. So of course I stress nutrition and I do stress fitness and a lot of it is coming from a place of self-care. But when it starts to take up too much of your time and headspace, that's when I do think, even if you don't have an eating disorder, that's when I think like diet culture is really dangerous, or not just dangerous, just like negatively affecting people. And that's why I think maybe your husband was, hiding the scale, or why you're like,
With
oh,
my
I don't.
permission, FYI, I'm just
Yes,
putting that out
yes.
there.
It doesn't sound like it was, really severely affecting your life in a negative way, but you notice that like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's not good for me to do this.
Yeah, and it's actually funny as I was listening to you speak about that it can take away from your other responsibilities. That is 100% something that I have had to learn to balance better.
Hmm.
Um, Aside from like changing my eating, I also was extremely strict about my exercising. And if I didn't do it one day, aside from I think feeling like a actual chemical lack because I
Hmm.
had been doing it so much. It could be that that exercise piece turned into, so to speak, an addiction where
Hmm.
I was used to getting some type of, dopamine release or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then I didn't. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
didn't exercise. Oh my God, I feel like garbage, blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
But that's something over some time I also had to learn to balance.
Hmm.
Um, and I have, and I don't need to exercise 2 hours every day. I don't need to exercise every day. It's okay for your body to rest.
Hmm.
So, I'm still in this transition stage, I'd like to say, which is why I'm really happy to be here with you and for you to
Hmm.
like educate me,
Hmm.
and help me a little more with this shifting of the mindset. But that also is something that I struggled with.
Right.
It's like balance.
Right. So you're like, I think that you're seeing like the negative effects of diet culture in terms of like your addiction, quote unquote, to exercise, because that was your experience. But a lot of the clients that I work with, that's like to the nth degree, and that's not just with exercise, it's with food. So it starts with this like innocent dieting to the point where they're like won't go to a simcha because they don't know what food's going to be served, or they're on OA and they have to weigh and measure their food, so therefore they can't go away for Shabbos, or they have to cook the food, they can't enjoy themselves. So like
Right.
that could easily spiral. Like I think you could see that because for you, like I guess the outlet was the exercise.
Yeah.
But people engage in like compensatory behaviors, like I'm only going to eat this pizza if I exercise for 2 hours. That's also not healthy.
Right.
So, like, yeah, life is all about learning the balance because exercise is great for you, of course. But when it comes at like such a high cost that like if you miss a day, you're depressed, obviously it's not healthy.
Sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely needs to be a balance.
Yeah. So I guess like ask me questions like about intuitive eating, like where you feel what's not sitting with you or what's confusing to you.
So just to go back to what you said about it's not meaning it's a transition from the diet culture to this intuitive eating.
Right.
So I think, like I said, I'm probably in the middle, right? I'm
Right.
making a shift. So my mind and the things that I'm thinking like two things. Um, I'm not at that point yet where I'm like saying, okay, it's okay that you didn't exercise today. It's more like, I really want to exercise. I really would love to. It's such a stress reliever, whatever it is. but I know that it's okay if I miss a day. So I'm going through this like this balancing act or this like juggling, so to speak, um, of holding those two pieces.
Right.
Also forgiving myself and being like, it's okay for you to have pizza, FYI,
Hmm.
not one slice of pizza. I can pound pizza, and that's
Hmm.
okay, right, Gila? It's okay.
Hmm. Yes, yes.
Okay. Um, and and then not be like upset about it after. Be like, yeah, it's
Right.
okay. Like you'll be fine. It's
Hmm.
great. You're allowed to
Hmm.
enjoy, and you'll that's fine.
Right. So I think
So how do
you're,
I get more
yeah.
closer to your side?
So intuitive eating has 10 principles, right? There's 10 principles of intuitive eating. And um I think where people get confused is kind of similar to what you're saying, like how do I go from here to here? Like it's such a jump.
Yeah.
But the 10 principles I'll tell you really quickly. I don't know if you know them, but like the first principle is rejecting the diet mentality. And it's like really learning that like we live in a society that's obsessed with dieting, and now it's not even like dieting, it's like wellness culture. Like it's kind of shifted, like dieting's kind of out, but like wellness is very in. You know what I mean? Like
Why did they change it? What do you think?
no,
Why
like
they
if you
change
if
that
you think
term?
about, people don't really like when you talk to people, it's like I'm not on a diet. I'm on, it's like it's a lifestyle, right? It's like wellness culture. Like everybody's really into health, like making sure that they're getting their vitamins and exercising, even if people aren't exercising. It's like if you're a good person if you have a gym membership. You know what I mean? There's like a big emphasis on the thin ideal. Um and then there's like something called orthorexia also, which is like not even about being skinny. It's about this unhealthy obsession with only eating healthy food,
Interesting.
which like a lot of people do struggle with. Yeah. So it's like, you're checking every single ingredient, you're interrogating the waiter. You won't go to a restaurant if they don't tell you exactly how much oil is in your food, right? It's not like you're not under eating, you're eating enough calories. You're just obsessively checking everything. So it's orthorexia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is the name of it? What's that called?
Orthorexia.
Orthorexia.
Yeah.
So not worth it, everyone. Do not have orthorexia. Go to the restaurants, enjoy
Yeah,
yourself, right?
right, right. So, but then there's like that balance of like gentle nutrition and joyful movement, and so the other principles are like honor your hunger and respect your fullness. So I think, like again, like people who have dieted for so long, they kind of take that on as like the hunger fullness diet. Like I can only eat when I'm hungry, and I must stop when I'm full, which isn't true either. It's just like our cues, our hunger fullness cues get turned off when we diet, because dieting tells you, dieting has all these rules, what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat. So you don't really know, am I
I
hungry
don't
or
think I don't think I'm not sure if this is because I'm so much affected by the diet culture that I don't know when I'm hungry, or it's just because like I love to eat, to be
Mhm,
honest. Like
mhm,
growing up, I wonder if I mentioned this on the first episode that we were doing. I remember there were three, I was one of three girls at the time. I have one sister who's a lot younger than me. So there were three of us. And my mother, she would make two boxes of pasta for the three of us.
I think I remember you
And
saying this, yeah.
yeah, and the three of us just like pounded through the pasta, no problem,
Hmm.
because we just loved eating. Like we
Hmm.
just love to eat. So I don't know, like maybe I probably don't know. I don't know when I'm hungry. I just typically
Hmm.
don't know how to listen
Right.
to my body.
Right. So I guess like also like just an interesting thing about intuitive eating is that like it's not just about food and not dieting anymore. It's about really learning about your bodies and your body's cues. Like I tell this to parents. I work with parents a lot. Like I coach parents a lot in terms of like the feeding dynamic in the home. And so I tell them like, listen, if you tell your child like you can't be hungry, you just eat. I know this sounds like dramatic, but you teach your kids not to listen to their body. Like it's similar. Like nowadays we say to our kids, like, it used to be like, you're not gonna hug your uncle, like that's rude. And now we say like, if you don't feel comfortable hugging your uncle, like listen to your body, right?
Sure.
Because we want our kids to know like your body's giving you some cues that are important. You better listen to them. Obviously, take with a grain of salt. I'm not, yes, you could take anything to an unbalanced way, like, okay, listen to your body. You could stay up till 12 o'clock at night. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that like we need to, I teach this to clients who are, I'm 32, like in like my age or even older than me. Like, what does hunger feel like in your body? What does fullness feel like in your body? Describe it to me. They can't. They have no idea, right? Or like a lot of clients confuse the emotional feeling of guilt with the physical feeling of fullness. So there's a lot of like pulling apart like physical symptoms
Repeat
of
that. I'm
hunger.
sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yes, a
People
lot
mix
of
up.
yes, a lot of clients confuse, or like it's it's like all tied up in their psyche of like physical feelings of fullness with emotional feelings of guilt, right?
And physical feelings of fullness or physical feelings of hunger with the guilt.
Okay, it could be both, let's say. So
It
like
could be either way.
it could be both. There's a lot of food rules that come up with hunger and fullness, right? Like there's so many clients say, until I'm ravenously starving, I'm not going to let myself eat. And what happens when we eat when we're ravenously starving? We tend to overeat, right? If we could neutralize it, like take out the diet culture stuff and just say like it's kind of like when we're underwater and we come up gasping for air, is there anything morally wrong with that, or is it just biology working? Right? Is there something wrong with you when you don't eat all a full day and then you kind of make up your calories? No, your body's working really well. However, because we live in diet culture, our brain says, "Oh, I knew that I'm addicted to pizza because I just had 4 slices. I'm never eating pizza again." So then they continuously, restrict pizza, feel restricted by pizza, or continuously only eat when they're ravenously starving and then overeat. And then they're like, "Oh, I better not eat. I better skip dinner." But they actually perpetuate that, binge cycle by doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
it is.
So what what tips do you have for moms,
Hmm.
teenage girls or growing girls, with helping them to listen to their bodies?
Hmm.
Or how do you like explain that to them, or to understand when you're full, to understand when you're hungry? Like, what messages is the body giving?
Right. So I do this with my clients, whether they're teenagers or kids or adults, or like I'm teaching a mom to teach this to their kids. So in the intuitive eating book, there's a hunger fullness scale, and it's rated,
Okay.
it's a rating from 0 to 10. And like the authors of Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch, they're the authors of Intuitive Eating. They explain that like dieting makes these cues objective. Like, I don't know what if you've ever been on a specific diet, but like a diet might dictate if you eat, let's say like this amount of chicken and this amount of broccoli and this amount of potatoes, you will be full for 7 hours, right? Let's just say. And then at the 4 hour mark, you're getting like, your stomach's growling, which is clearly a cue of hunger. Or
Mhm.
maybe you're having like a lot more thoughts about food, which could be a symptom of hunger. Maybe you're starting to feel a little lightheaded, or maybe you're starting to get hangry, like you're noticing a mood shift. You're like, I I struggle with that a lot. That's definitely my
Me
symptom of
too.
hunger. Yeah. So then you're like, oh no, I can't be hungry. Like the diet told me, like this food is gonna last me 7 hours, but that's not what the direct message of your body's telling you. So like I literally teach this to clients. Like there's also different types of hunger, right? There's meal hunger and there's snack hunger, right? Like, let's say you had lunch at 12 o'clock and you had like a really nice balanced lunch, like you had a tuna bagel with a salad, right? And I do this rating with clients, like you were two hunger, like which is like comfortable hunger, or we'll call it like polite hunger, and you became like an eight, which is like comfortable fullness, right? An hour or two later you might be hungry, but I'm assuming you're not going to eat it. You could maybe you exercise more that day or whatever. I'm assuming you're not going to have another bagel with a salad. You might have like an apple with peanut butter, right? So that you're not meal hungry, but you are hungry, right? And we anyways, for health reasons, like we want to keep our sugar levels steady throughout the day. We don't want to go from restricting to binging. That's also not good for our health.
Right.
So it's not like we're not like neglecting health. I think people think that with intuitive eating, like whatever, just forgive yourself, eat whatever you want, like who cares, right? It's not like that. There's a whole system of like learning how your body works, and like for most of my clients, as long as they feel comfortable and they don't feel like triggered to do this, I will have them track their eating for like a week or two and track their hunger level and track their fullness level and really start to pay attention to like what foods keep you fuller longer, what foods satisfy you. Like some research shows that like the more satisfied, like if let's say you really want 3 slices of pizza, but you're on a diet, so you have a salad, you might be full because there was like, chicken in the salad or croutons in the salad or like a really nice avocado dressing, but you're not satisfied. Do you ever have that where you're like, you really wanted to eat the pizza, but instead you had the salad, and then like an hour later you're just binging on ice cream because like really what you wanted was something like crunchy or smooth or cold, right? Just for
Totally.
example. So it's like really
Totally happens to me all the
giving
time.
people this language and this knowledge that like taking first of all taking away the moral judgment of food, I'm only saying a few of the principles, understanding that emotional eating isn't a bad thing, right? The first thing a baby does when a baby is born is eat, right? And the baby doesn't just get nutrition from the mother, it gets like warmth and love and comfort and support, right? How do we celebrate holidays? Like we just had Pesach. Every holiday has a food associated with it. It's really a beautiful thing. Um, Hashem made food enjoyable for a reason. He made us have to breathe to live. He also made us have to eat. Why is it enjoyable? There's a reason. It's just been demonized by diet culture that like that's really bad. Emotional eating is really bad. I'm not saying you should always emotionally eat,
Right.
but just like getting like that joy back of food, like really teach the. And I'm not again, there's like there's 10 principles, so it's not like they don't just stand on their own, but it's like it's giving kids and adults this language of like, what does hunger feel like, what does fullness feel like, what foods do you actually like. um if you notice that you're not hungry at all and you keep eating, why are you eating? So then that goes into like the more emotional
Right.
principles. What's going
Right.
on for you? Are you give them language? Are you sad? Are you frustrated? Are you anxious? Is food helping you? Maybe it is sometimes, and maybe it isn't. So what are other coping strategies, right? It's really like it's really like, I know, lifestyle, but it really is like a whole way of life of really getting to know yourself and getting to know your relationship with food, and maybe like what's food doing for you? Like I talk a lot about self-care. Like if your self-care is low, are you using food as your self-care? Like people do that a lot, because it's so accessible. It's so much more acceptable than like drugs or alcohol, right? So it's like it's easy to use food instead of actually getting your needs met.
100%. 100%. So just to go back, and I know this is something that we've talked about here and there. I know that we're both like to read some like self-help books and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So diet culture, right? All this stuff, and I guess everything that intuitive eating is trying to counteract,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like the whole diet culture, I think, stems from everybody has to be perfect, right? And we
Right.
touched a little bit upon this in our conversation, that it's like the world is telling everybody the messages that we're seeing, the messages that we're being given off is like, you need to be perfect. So it sounds as though, right, intuitive eating is completely counteracting that message. No, nobody's perfect. You
You need
can
to be
have a little bit.
human.
Yeah. So I don't know if
Right.
you could talk a little bit about that and how perfectionism like works together with um or is the opposite of what intuitive eating
Yeah.
messages are giving off.
Right. That's like so basically like also another one of the principles is called challenging the food police.
Okay.
So that whole principle is really like about like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? So like our thoughts create feelings and our feelings create behaviors, right? So I talk a lot about these automatic negative thoughts that we all have, like these thought patterns that we were, learned as a child, whether we learned it from our parents or from our peers or from media, and then it was continuously reinforced by those people or internalized by ourselves, right? So an automatic negative thought is perfectionism. Like it must be, and that's why a lot of people who like are type A or like have these like perfectionistic tendencies, when they start dieting, they develop an eating disorder. I mean, eating disorders are very multifaceted, but that could be one of the reasons why, because it's like, oh, it's healthy to eat whole wheat. But like, I mean, I also struggled with my own like disordered eating, like I'm only going to eat whole wheat. I won't eat anything that's not whole wheat, and I won't go to a restaurant that has white bread just in case, or like
Now as well.
no, no, I don't. Now I don't struggle with that. But I'm saying as a
Okay.
teenager, I really, that's where all this like stems from, like my own struggles with disordered eating. Um,
I love that though. Because like
yeah,
you took it and you used that and created this whole like career and help other people.
right. Basically, yeah.
You go, girl.
Yeah. Thanks.
You Glassberg, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks. So, wait one second. What was I just saying about that? Oh yeah. So that's why it's so easy if you struggle with perfectionism. Um, First of all, like unwinding that, like unpacking that in with intuitive eating is really helpful because it makes you realize like, oh, like I don't have to be perfect, or there's no such thing as a perfect diet. We don't,
Right.
also nutrition is such a new science. Like as a dietitian, I have my master's in nutrition, okay? Like I know a lot about nutrition. I learned a lot about nutrition. It's still not a perfect science. I mean, nothing is a perfect science, but like going back to that whole concept of orthorexia, right? And health is a multifaceted thing. That's also a big part of intuitive eating. It's not just about nutrition and it's not just about exercise, right? It's about your mental health and your sleep hygiene and your stress management. So even if you're eating a perfect diet, but you are so anxious about every single morsel of food that goes into your body, I can't call that health,
No, for sure.
right?
Right. 100%.
Yeah. So I think you're right in terms of like the world is obsessed with it gives us a lot of these messages of like how we can do things perfectly, like we could parent perfectly, or we could have a perfect marriage, or we could have a perfect career, right? And like obviously that's not the human experience.
Well, look at all the messages around. Look at like social media and everything we're seeing, right? We're seeing a glimpse of what seems to be perfection, right? One
Hmm.
snapshot of somebody's life or a snapshot of how fabulous and beautiful somebody looks when really it's Photoshop. Like the
It's curated,
messages are
right?
really subconsciously seeping in perfection, perfection, perfection. You want to be like that person, you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So I don't like that. I
Right.
don't like that for me. I don't like that for my children
Hmm.
because it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as
Right.
perfect, right? Like
Right.
that's why we're here. Hashem put us here
Hmm.
because, right? We have to do the work. We have to work on ourselves because we're not perfect.
Totally. Totally.
That's
Actually,
the
just
simple thing.
from like a physical perspective on that, like I talk about that a lot with clients that like about beauty ideals, right? So like first of all, I don't know if you have experienced this, but that when you're like obsessed with the way you look, so dieting reinforces that because you always want to be skinnier. Like you, no matter how skinny you are, dieting makes you want to be skinnier. It's like does become some sort of an obsession, and no matter how much you like, let's say engage in, the more you engage in manipulating your body, whether it's weight related or not. Let's say it's like Botox, like people are really into Botox now, or like liposuction, which is about weight, or like whatever it is, it actually makes people even more unhappy because you just are never pretty enough because you could always be prettier, right? So nowadays, like the beauty standard is, think about it, the beauty, like it used to be like in the 1960s was like anorexic skinny was like beautiful, right?
Right.
Right, like Twiggy, like that whole time period. But nowadays the beauty standard is actually like very, very curvy and busty and a
Yes.
tiny waist. Like people in the world don't look like that.
Like a Barbie,
People
right?
don't look
Like
like that.
it's not normal.
It's not
Right.
normal. Like it's not natural. Like, yeah, maybe if you get like some sort of, plastic surgery, but like that is that what we're really like with filters, like is that what we're really aspiring to? Like obviously that's not healthy for anybody's mental health because we are aspiring to be something that doesn't naturally exist.
So I see that, but I also am noticing in like the world, like they're starting to put out, or maybe like more, let's say, what we would call plus size models, or showing more
Hmm.
of a variety of
Yes.
figures.
Yes.
I think the world in general is becoming more aware and
Yeah.
becoming more anti-diet culture.
Right, for sure. I think that that's a product of intuitive eating and health at every size, which is another movement, and body positivity. For sure. I think that thank God, there's like definitely a shift, no? In terms of
I
like,
think so. Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Again, I do think the underlying messages of the perfectionism that we're talking about are still there, and it creeps up in so many different ways. But yeah, I think the world is becoming a little more open-minded, so to speak, to many different body types, which is
Mm.
definitely moving a move in the right direction.
Right. I mean, we know like like people have different shoe sizes and people have different skin color and different hair color and different eye color, but like for some reason we don't think that people should be different sizes. Like everybody should be a size two, right? That's a big part of diet culture. If you
Totally.
want it, if you wanted it badly enough, like then you could be a size two, right? Like that's a belief system that a lot of people walk around with. Like and then they internalize like something's really wrong with me, like I lack motivation, or especially people who are like, I think it compounds with people who are very successful in other areas of their life. Like they're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're doing really well in life, but they can't lose weight, and they're like, so I'm just like I'm hopeless, I'm useless, I have no willpower, but like that's obviously not the case. You have a lot of willpower, just your body is
Interesting.
bigger. That doesn't Nothing's wrong with you.
So interesting. But also, I'm saying there's a piece, that the genetic piece as well, that
For
I'm sure
sure.
plays, where the person really is they're on a diet, but they're having a hard time losing weight, like because of the
100%.
genetics.
100%. I'll even take it a step further with us, me and you, right?
Yeah.
Not to compare our bodies. I'm just saying it's a
No,
good
please, let's
example.
go.
It's a good example because I think I exercise a lot. And I've taken your class and I can't keep up with your class. And I've been exercising consistently for I don't know, since I was a teenager. I'm 32, right? We have different stamina levels, we have different athletic
100%.
builds, but and we're okay with that. I mean, some people are. I mean, like meaning like I think most people would agree that's true, right? Like two of the same people could eat the same way and exercise the same way and look very, very different.
For sure. But I
Right.
do think that I wonder if we discuss this at some point that you are like there are areas that we would let's say that I might be stronger with my upper body strength with my arms,
Hmm.
but I think that did you once tell me like you felt like lower body you have a
Right.
stronger right?
I do, I think so, but I'm just saying, like, I remember telling a client once who was really struggling to get herself to the gym. I'm like, I take a class, like it was either your class or Madison's class or whatever, like a class consistently, a hit class. And I probably did your class for 2 years straight. That didn't mean that I could always do all the burpees. That didn't mean I could always do the push up. I still can't do a push up, not on my knees, right? So she's like, I would be so discouraged, like after all those years of taking the class. I'm like, but I'm taking the class to feel strong and to be healthy and to like be in touch with my body. Like it has nothing like I get why people get stuck there, and that goes way back to the perfectionism. Like a lot of people who struggle with perfectionism don't get anything done because they're like, if it's not perfect, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Right. So like if people
Debilitating for
could,
people.
it's debilitating, yeah. So if people could just know that like again, like people come in all shapes and sizes, and even if you exercise all day and eat a quote unquote perfect diet, you still might not be skinny, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that you're not healthy, and you could pursue health even in a bigger body. A skinny person could be unhealthy, a fat person could be healthy. Like we have to change that. We have to change like the talk around that also because people who are in larger bodies are stigmatized. They'll go to the doctor because they have a cold and the doctor will tell them, well, if you lost weight, like you would feel better. Like that's not true. That's not necessarily true. And
Right.
anyways, like we don't really have like a known way to lose weight healthfully. Most people who diet become like obsessed. So like could you change your eating habits? 100%. Could you increase your exercise? Yes. Does that mean you're going to change your weight? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So it's like taking away that piece, like that the weight piece, not like throwing away the health part. I think that's where people get stuck also.
For sure. I think that now that you're bringing that up, I think part of the transition also was that I noticed that when I eat healthfully, right, I feel much better.
Hmm.
Not minimally, I'm talking about healthfully. Where and there are times when, let's say I eat the pizza or I'm not talking about one slice of pizza, two, three slices of pizza, whatever it is. I don't it might give me that temporary, relief, but I don't feel good after. Like I think
Hmm.
chemically, physically, maybe because my body is not used to that, I don't
Hmm.
feel something doesn't feel right inside like inside. And I
Right.
don't I don't think it's because I'm like upset that I ate it. I think it's just is too much for my body. Like my body needs a balanced diet, and it just throws me, you know.
Right. I don't know if this resonates with you at all, but like there are people who like do struggle with orthorexia who have like a lot of digestive problems also because they eat too much vegetables, too many vegetables, they eat too much fiber, right? So like I think it's actually just important for people to be like I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying like sometimes when I eat fried food, my stomach really hurts, and sometimes when I have like a really big salad, my stomach hurts. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not saying that. I think from a nutritional standpoint, it's very important to have balanced meals. It is. But like one meal is not going to kill you. One meal is not going to even make you gain weight. One meal, like that it could be just
You're
about
frozen.
okay, I'm
Sorry, you were
here.
frozen for a
No,
bit.
no problem. No problem. I know it's like a tiny bit frozen, like every like 15 minutes, like the screen gets frozen. I don't think it's my internet. Anyways, so like um what I was saying was about oh yeah, so like you're eating like it doesn't right. So let's say you have a lot of fried food and you have also a lot of salad, right? That could also hurt your stomach. So it's important to be in touch with your body because most people, some people when they're starting the intuitive eating journey, they might think like, oh, so should I eat chocolate all day? Should I eat danishes all day? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you feel good when you eat chocolate and danishes all day, right? And most
Like
people
right
don't.
away I do. Like I'm like, oh, I love this.
I don't feel good when I eat like I don't even like chocolate. I know I'm really weird, but I don't feel good when I have like a Danish for breakfast. Like I feel much better when I have a protein bar or when I have or even if I have half the Danish, or like a quarter of the Danish. So like
So what is that? Is that you don't feel good and you like before you eat it, you're like not feeling it because you worked and you are an intuitive eating person and you just know that it's not good for you, or like what is it?
So this might be really sound really, really extreme. So you might have to like chew it over and think about it. But like I
Okay.
don't even really like to think about food as like good for you or not good for you. I like to think of it as um like I don't know if this is helpful for you to think about it, but like let's say you were stranded on a desert island and all you had was Danishes, like that would help you survive, right? Because there's protein in it, there's carbs in it, there's a lot of carbs, right? And you need that to live, to function. And let's say you only had carrots versus carrot cake, you would actually it would be healthier for you to eat the carrot cake, right? Because you need more calories. And you would be getting like oil, so you'd be getting fat and eggs, so you'd be getting protein, right? I'm just saying, like we have this um vision of health and healthy food. And I feel like even just like pulling like unpacking that a little bit is helpful for people. So like yeah, like refined sugars oftentimes don't make us feel good because they do spike our sugar
Yeah.
and then, but so maybe eating the refined sugar with protein would help you, or eating it with, I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit to explain, like, okay, so then what is healthy for you? Now, everybody's different, right? And eating a Danish one day is not like eating poison. That's not the way it works.
So then why don't you want the Danish in the morning?
So I think for me, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's different, but for me, like I do know a lot about nutrition. And let's say I would think, I don't feel so good when I eat a Danish for breakfast. I don't like the way it feels heavy in my stomach and it makes me a
Okay.
little bit jittery. And it does have a lot of refined carbs, right? So if I'm gonna get more nutritional bang for my buck, yeah, maybe I would have like whole wheat bread with some cheese, right? That would give me more protein and carbs and it feels good in my body. But if I'm at a bris and there's no food except for Danishes and I have to run to work, the Danish might be like the most healthy thing I could do for myself. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You live it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you live it and breathe it. It's just all
Right.
like,
Right.
so what do you, and you said that you don't like to necessarily use the terminology good for you, bad for you. Like
Right.
what would you substitute that like with?
I don't have the best language around it. Like I actually asked one of my supervisors. So like if I'm not gonna say to my kids like, healthy snacks and unhealthy snacks, what should I say? And she's like, just label what it is, an apple, a bag of chips. It's a little hard to do that when you're like like we like to categorize things. Um, but I don't know. I like to think of it as like like a little bit like my plate. You know what my plate is? Instead of like my pyramid, it's like now my plate, which is like a plate that has like some protein, some carbs, and like eat like some dairy in the middle, whatever. It's a little bit like funny, like the my plate. But anyways, taking that, let's say, and multiplying it by 3 for the day, right?
Okay.
So like so maybe at breakfast I'll have like protein and carb. Maybe for my snack I'll have what I call like a fun food, like I don't even call it like junk food because that's also like more like putting like a moral value on the food. I would call it like a play food or like a fun food. Like sometimes I'll tell this to clients, like you go to school for 10 months out of the year and you go to camp for 2 months out of the year, like that's healthy and normal. That's kind of like balance. So like yeah, sometimes you're going to have a food that has like a little bit less nutritional value, but it's like engaging in a birthday party, or it's like taking your kid for ice cream. You know what I mean? So is that like it's like a whole different way of looking at food.
100%. It's a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
Cool though. I'm I'm
Intrigued.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting for kids also. Like I don't call it junk food for my kids either because I don't want them to have like any really negative associate. Kids are a totally different story, whatever. You could listen to podcasts that I talk about feeding your kids, but with kids also, like we don't want to like put any moral value on food or call it healthy or unhealthy. We want to um we want to have access to all different types of foods and
Okay.
all different categories of foods, and like let's say protein, carbs, fats, fruits and vegetables, and fun foods, and like also like model eating it in a balanced way but not like demonizing it. A lot of times kids end up like sneaking food and then feeling really guilty. Like we don't want to have those behaviors. Those are not good behaviors either, right?
Interesting.
Or feeling really bad about their bodies, or some kids come in larger bodies. So like how are we going to deal with that? Like we're not going to demonize their body. That doesn't mean we're going to let them eat play food all day, every day. Like we still have to have boundaries with food, but
So how do you get that balance? Like how do you maintain those boundaries and educate, educate kids, but not cross a line that's going to be detrimental to them?
right. So I actually have like a bunch of podcasts on specifically feeding kids, but there is like a little bit of there's a different feeding model with kids. It's called division of responsibility. And the basic premise or like rules or guidelines of that is that the parent decides the what, where, and when of eating, and the child decides how much and if any, if they eat. And then the kids have to be fed, like offered food multiple times a day, like whether it's an hour or every hour and a half to 2 hours, depends on their age and stage. And then at every meal, there has to be a safe food, a food that you know that your child will accept and like. And like, there's a bunch of other things to keep in mind. Kids could be
Interesting.
offered a food 100 times before they try it and like it. Every single aspect of acceptance is a win. So whether they let you put it on their plate or put it on their tongue or touch it with their hands, that's a win, right? I also like, I've been recently saying this to clients a lot. I hate herring. Okay, it's not my taste. I will not try herring.
Me
Okay.
neither. I hate it.
I know I
I
watch
never
people eat
tried it,
it.
but it's
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's
so
yeah.
slimy.
I
Ooh,
know.
no.
It's smelly and so I think like like some kids like if you give them like you like their broccoli is like touching the chicken and they won't eat it.
Right.
I think of it as somebody would take herring and pour it on my chicken. That's what I try to think about with kids because I'm 32, so I've been exposed to, broccoli and herring multiple times in my whole life, but they're little tiny people and
Right.
they're new to textures and smells. And like I always say, like, I can't guarantee that they'll eat the broccoli if you give it to them this way, but I could guarantee they won't if you force it down their throat, right? Like most people don't like that. There's like you're taking away their autonomy. So it's a whole different feeding model. And like when I work on this with clients, I really like pull apart their whole feeding dynamic and how it started in their own diet culture stuff. And it's a whole new way of life. But
Do
yeah.
you also, when you're dealing with a client or even if it's a child or whatever it is, go into the history, um, just to like learn the dynamics of the home? Because I'm sure a lot of
Yes.
times the history and the family dynamics plays a role in
Yeah.
the child's eating habits.
Totally.
Like what types of things do
Yeah.
you ask or like, I don't
Yeah.
know, keep an
So
eye out for?
first of all, I like to just know like if the child was like born like at a healthy weight and how they were fed as a baby and if they were picky as a baby. I like to know their general personality also because a lot of like moms will tell me, let's say they're worried about their child's weight, they think their child's overweight or they need to lose weight, right? And they're so obsessed with um the way that they package their lunch. They're so into it. It has to be this, it has to be that. I'm like, are they like that with everything? Are they like that with their organizing pins? Are they like that with
Right,
their toothbrushes? Okay, so we don't have an issue, a food issue. This is not a food issue, right? Just like
right.
people are so sensitive and nervous about food. Also, um, a lot of times when kids are sneaking food, it's usually because of restricting. Not always, but it's usually because a mom's talking a lot about this is so bad for you. This is so unhealthy for you. They are hiding the
Yeah,
food. They're not buying the food that all the kids at school are eating. So they're sneaking food. They're
okay.
binging on food. Sometimes kids steal money for food. It's like, I'm not gonna say it's a real no-no to restrict food because it's also like I can't really like it's different for every family the way I would help them navigate it. Um but like we have to like allow all foods basically. It doesn't mean that we're giving them candy for dinner. It just means, like, again, because the parents just in charge of the what, where, and when of eating. We're in charge
Right.
of what we're offering. But like if a child is begging you for a certain food that you think is like poison for them, I always say it's like worse for their health that you're like restricting them than actual food. Because I always say like if this is helpful for you, and I've said it like so many times on the podcast, but think about your 4-year-old now. Even if you get them to eat that broccoli, I want you to think about them when they're 20 and 25 and 30 at their own Shabbos table. What are they eating then? Right? If you got them to eat it now, great. They're going to hate it when they're 20 because you force them. But it could go the other way also. Like, let's say a mom tells me, um, I don't know, he used to eat broccoli all the time and now he doesn't eat it. And like, I don't really want to make it because it's annoying. He doesn't look at it. So I'm like, okay, so just imagine what you just did. They no longer see broccoli. They don't see you eating it. They don't smell it. They're not exposed to it. 10 years later, that a Shabbos meal with broccoli. Are they going to try it then? Maybe, but less likely. right? It's you have to keep exposing your kids, but in a non what's it called, like pressurized way, not like you better eat your broccoli. And like when we say like if you eat all your food then you get dessert, we're telling them like this food is yucky and this food you got to earn, you know what I mean? We mess with a lot with their hunger fullness cues.
Well, so much of the things we say, aside from messing with hunger, could mess with a lot of things that,
Yes. Yeah.
so I guess it goes without saying that it's going to affect the eating habits as well,
Right.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like there's a lot of because I see also things that you post on your status, like as far as what you're cooking for dinner
Hmm.
and the things that you're making. What advice, tips do you have for full-time working mommies
Hmm.
who do not have so much time to plan the things that they're like to make for dinner? Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'll come home from work or my kids are coming in the door. I'm like, kids, cereal and milk, fend for yourself,
Right.
take this.
Right.
Like,
Right.
wh what
Right.
advice do you have for me?
Okay, so every mom's different, every household's different, every parent. Again, like I think this is also helpful for me that I've learned to talk about perfectionism. Some people are more organized than others. Some people like cooking more than others. Some people like this is my job, this is my career, this is like my everything food. So like if you see
Right.
me posting like I'm cooking a lot, yeah, like I love to cook and experiment with food. So just let me just say that because I think it's helpful
Okay.
for people to hear. I like to say like whatever you could automate should be automated, right? So I have this like master grocery list on my Google Doc, and it's like it's everything I need in my kitchen always, right? So I print out like 10 of those and stick it on my bulletin board in my kitchen, and now it acts as a grocery list slash inventory. Okay. And like depends on my week, depends how organized I am, depends how frazzled I am. Sometimes I have on the bottom of my grocery list, like I have this automated in my Google Doc, like a dinner menu, right? So like it says like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, protein, carb, vegetable, and I can fill it in. And again, like not this doesn't work for every mom, but for some families it works to have some sort of general idea of every night. So like let's say Monday night's chicken and Tuesday night's fish and Wednesday night's something with chopped meat and Thursday night's whatever, fend for yourself, pizza or noodles or cereal and milk, right? Um, so then that really helps because it's like even if you don't know what type of chicken you're making, you know that you took chicken out of the freezer or you know that you got chicken
Right.
when you went shopping on Sunday. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, are you this organized with other aspects of your life outside of like eating, meal planning, that type of thing?
It's
You
I
don't
don't
have to
think
answer. I'm getting
no,
very
I'm not
personal.
I don't care to answer. I don't think I'm so organized. Maybe this sounds very organized. I also work from home. Like when I used to work full time, it was much harder. But I kind of have like this is like my passion. Like I love creating meals for my family that have all the elements of like a balanced plate. That's like my passion. Also, like I see it with the more you the every family's different, every parent's different, every situation's different, but I do see it with my own home. Like the more I stick to these guidelines of like the division of responsibility. So like for example, tonight my son came home who's 4 and he's like, I'm hungry. So when it's around 5 o'clock, dinner's ready, and that means whatever's for dinner is what you're having, whatever, with a safe food, whatever. So he's like, I don't want dinner. I'm hungry, which means he wants a snack. I'm like, okay, whenever you're ready for dinner, dinner's ready. Like eventually he came around and he had a really nice plate of like chili and tacos and avocados and rice cakes, and that's what. And he didn't have the salad. That's okay. But like I see that like a lot of moms will just give in and give them a snack, and then they really aren't hungry for the meal, right? Or they really kids know like eventually if I don't eat the fresh dinner that my mother made, she will put the chicken nuggets in the oven. So they it's a learned behavior that they learn not to eat cooked food. Do you get what I'm saying?
100%.
But yeah, I do try to be organized. I like this stuff. I like automating things in my life to make my life easier. I think sometimes like a little bit more foresight in the beginning helps automate other processes.
What other types of things do you automate?
Oh, I don't know. I like to think I don't know. I just like to think about like what's something I was just doing for Pesach. I just made Pesach, so that was like a lot. Like I wrote out like my whole schedule, like when I'm gonna turn over and when we're gonna buy this and when I'm gonna get my manicure and when I'm gonna go shopping for clothes. Because if I didn't do that, then come like the day before Pesach, I wouldn't have new clothing, you know? So it's like anything or like
Interesting.
I mean it takes also like it took me a long time to get to this place where I'm like less judgmental of myself. Like I'm not like so into my kids' clothes. I'm not like it's not my strength. I'm not good at that. Also like I'm from out of town and like when we go to Rochester, like my father lives in Rochester, my brother lives there, like nobody's like a lot, some kids are, but like it's not like you have to have the in style clothing. But
Right.
like here in New York, it's like you're a little weird if you don't, you know?
I love out of town.
I know,
I
I
love
know,
it.
I know.
I
But
love
there's a
it.
lot of nice things about this community too.
Oh yeah, there
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
are.
yeah.
So are you by nate it seems like you're a list person by nature.
I'm a list person, yeah. Are you
And
not?
I'm not, which is so bizarre. First, like,
Yeah. You seem organized, but I'm just making
right,
a guess.
right. So I find that like most of the time, people that I've spoken to that are super like organized, they're list people.
Right,
I'm real, and I'm trying to understand. I think the only time that I make lists is if I'm going like if I'm going on a like trip or like
right,
Pesach, I need to make sure I don't forget anything. So then I'll
right.
make like a packing list.
But maybe
But
it doesn't stress, like for me, if I don't have like if I don't know what we're having for dinner, first of all, I just feel frazzled, like, oh, now I have to go to Gourmet Glatt every single day. That's so annoying.
right,
Um, and I like being creative with my cooking, and I like my kids to try all different types of food. That's like really important to me. That doesn't mean I think it should be important for everyone else. I really don't.
right. No, this is your passion. This is
Right,
your passion. This is your baby. So it makes sense that you're gonna invest and put all the time and effort, into it. Like
right.
that makes 100% sense to me.
But if it's let's say a client's telling me I'm giving my kids chicken nuggets every single night and they don't eat vegetables, I would say for you it's a huge win if you cut a pepper and put it on the plate. They don't have to eat it. They don't have to like it. They don't have to try it. But that's a goal. For me, that's not my goal so much because my kids are exposed to my kids eat lots of funny foods. They like really spicy foods. They like chili powder because I love chili powder. I put it in everything. They love the hot pepper flakes because I cook with it. You know,
Right.
I like things well spiced and flavored and with like the right amount of salt. I'm like really into that. So like my daughter will tell me like, oh, I went here or there and it didn't have, I needed to add salt or like garlic or whatever. It's like, I love that because I'm a foodie. Like I want, and
Right.
not that I care if they're foodies, but like it's important to me because I also think food should be like enjoyable and it should be like a positive part of people's lives, you know?
It's funny because I find I don't love to cook,
Hmm.
but I know when I have more time in my life, which I don't really have a lot of,
Right, right.
then and it's like an unpressured, it's like not pressured, like it's quiet in my kitchen. I find that I like will experiment with other things. I'm
Hmm.
very like very regimented. I'll make the same things. Like I make good food
Hmm.
most of the time, but I don't like trying new things because I don't like to patchki. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I although be very proud of me. I had leftover chicken from Shabbos.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be resourceful. I'm gonna
yeah.
make chicken fajitas. Never made it before
Yum,
in my life. Had no
yum.
idea what I was doing. Like
Yeah,
I like Googled chicken fajitas. I'm like, what's
yeah.
happening? Total experiment. And it came out so good. It
I'm
really was
so
delicious.
happy. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody loved it. Well, everybody
Yay.
who tried it,
Yeah.
everyone who tried it
Yeah.
liked it. But I was very proud of myself. But I don't usually do those things.
Hmm.
I don't. I don't. I don't know. Like maybe it's again, it's not something I'm not like a cooking person. It doesn't like excite me. Unless as I have time and I don't know.
Right. I think it's important also, like I talk about this a lot with because like, you see that my work is so much deeper than just the food. I like to have people like kind of like think about that their life as like a pizza pie. Actually, I think one of my business coaches taught me this that like you want to like it's like values based living like that you're giving you're intentionally giving the parts of the pizza pie the amount of attention that you want. So like right now this works for me to put a lot of attention into my food, and it's also like even tonight I posted something about my recipe, I mean my dinner. Like for me it's like kind of content. I always have to clients are always asking for good ideas, so it's like it's helpful for me not just personally but professionally. But like so that's like a big part of my wheel and a big part of my the pizza pie, right? But for you it's like you're really working a lot out of the house. I might, if you were my
Right.
client, I might tell you, like, could you go to Gourmet Glatt and buy like pre-breaded schnitzel? And could you buy marinated chicken, right? Because that could also give you more time for your to be with your kids. I don't know. I'm just
100%. Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely have to do like more of that stuff as opposed
mhm,
to having macaroni and cheese kids,
right. Yeah.
But just to go back on what you were saying, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I feel as though, and just from knowing you over these past couple of years, I think that it's more than that. Like it's a very big part of your pizza wheel because of like the history that you've had with eating.
Right.
It's a very meaningful
Right.
topic for you,
For sure.
right?
Totally. Totally. But also like, yeah, like you said, like you want to be like, you don't want to just give your kids macaroni and cheese, let's say, because you want them to one day be, adults that eat all different types of foods, right? But also you have to balance that wheel with like, but I want to be like a calm mommy. So if I'm cooking
Right.
more than 20 minutes, then I'm not in that. Right? So like this is what I help clients do all the time. Like every client, every person is different and every stage of our life is different. And but the point is really the intentionality, like how much if you notice that you're giving, like let's say I was neglecting my kids and making dinner, I would say like, oh, I really should shift the wheel a little bit because that's not my goal. My goal is that like they come home to a yummy dinner and like we all sit down. I mean, that doesn't always happen, but like that they enjoy it and they like it and they want to eat it and they want to have it again next weekend. Whatever they ask and they request, could you make chili? They're so cute when they do that. But like that doesn't mean that's my goal for everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I feel like everybody is like their own world, or like you're saying, like really their own, circle, their own pizza
Yeah.
pie. And
Yeah.
we're so multifaceted and there's so much that
Right.
like you have to take into account and factor in, like,
Right.
where people are holding, and that's a very big component for sure.
Totally. You got to meet the client where they're at. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more also like a lot of it, it seems also as you really meeting the client where they're at, it goes beyond food. It goes like
Totally.
there's so much like emotions that I'm sure, is a big part of it.
Totally.
How often would you say from client, I'm sure you have a lot of clients that you have to also make a professional recommendation to
For
like
sure. Yeah.
go speak to a social worker or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like
Yeah. A lot of
a
my
lot of
clients
it's
are
related.
also working. Yes. A lot of my clients are also working with therapists. And like sometimes I'm speaking to their therapist also. I mean, it's never just about the food. That's really the
No,
truth.
right.
But like, I think that you're saying something important. And I kind of want people to know this, that like, I do also focus a lot on the food. Like making meal plans for people and making food more enjoyable for them and making it easier for them. That's a big part of what I do. I am technically a dietitian, right? I'm not a therapist.
Right.
But you can't, like at this point, especially with intuitive eating, it's hard to separate the two. And I think actually what's really interesting is that a lot of clients tell me like this work changed their life, but one of the biggest, most important things that I try to help people do is like the self-care piece, and not self-care like, oh, go to the gym or get your nails done. It's like, why are you binging every single night at 9 p.m.? Oh, it's because like you had no time to yourself the entire day and now your kids are sleeping. Okay, so that does that mean that you need like an ice cream cake in your freezer? Or does that mean that, like, tell me more about yourself? Do you need to go on a date with your husband more? Do you need to walk around the block? Do you need to go to an exercise class? Maybe you just need a veg. Like, everyone's so different, but like, that's really ultimately, I find that when a lot of times food is like covering up other things, and that's what we really uncover. And that's why I find this work to be so life changing. And yeah, getting rid of the guilt and learning about foods that you actually enjoy, of course, enhances the process, but it's really the deeper stuff that I really enjoy and try to do.
I love that stuff.
I know it's really cool.
Me and you, we talk about all of our books that we read, right?
Yes, yes, that's really like you know me, like I'm a deep person. You are also like the exercises is just like one part of it that's really getting you closer to who you really are, right? It's like a tool.
So I would say it's helped me. It's
Hmm.
helped me with certain things. Like it's just really helped me, be less anxious, be strong, feel good and feel strong, and I don't know if invincible is the right word, but like there are
Grounded.
times
I
where you
find this makes me feel grounded in my body.
so right, it's funny. I don't know, and this is also something that I feel like I probably need to learn more about is like being mindful, right?
Hmm.
Like I don't know, grounded in my body. It's a lot of it is for me. There's so much that goes on inside my brain and my head.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think this might be also why I like cardio so much is when I run and I go fast. I feel like I'm letting it all out,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
you know? And I know it's for me is would be a good idea to probably do yoga, right, and
Yeah.
slow down a little bit and
And or
just
journal just to see like maybe do like some reflecting on like what are all those thoughts in your head as opposed to just like releasing them, you know?
know there when I'm running, right? I'm also thinking.
You're
I think
processing.
my issue is too much thinking,
Right.
too much.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Like
Yeah.
there's too much thinking. and then it helps me. I guess for me, running makes me feel more grounded. I will say
Right.
that.
Right.
That
I know.
is a true statement.
You know, I love to spin. So like I always say, like my husband thinks I'm like such a wacko. I'm like when I'm on the spin bike, it's like so spiritual. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I'm really like also like I think about my goals a lot when I'm on the bike, right? So then like when the instructor's like, you got this, and then the music is like going to the beat, it's like sort of like I don't know, it's like you like tap into something deeper, but at least I do. So like people think I'm weird, but like, and I also like, I don't know, I'm sure you have people in your life who are not into fitness and they don't get how you exercise so much. I have that when people are like, I'm just so not motivated or whatever. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, I love it. Like, it's
Yeah,
so
no,
fun for me.
it's also challenging. Like when I want to, let's say, exercise or work with like like move around with my family, it's hard for me to slow down.
Hmm.
And that sometimes is an issue. And I have to be more mindful of that. Be like, okay, you need to know what they're not going to be able to walk as fast as you. They're
Right.
sure not going to be running. So like,
Right.
and if
Right.
you're biking, you probably should bike at the same pace as them. Like you need to slow
Right.
down because they can speed up. But that's also a challenge for me because of the benefit that exercise gives me and what it does for me mentally.
Right.
I'm like, but I need to release. I need to get less anxious. But it's a
Right.
balance. It's for sure.
Right.
It's a balance.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is really fun. It's like late, but is there any
Okay.
last words, anything you want to leave the listeners with? Anything? Maybe we could do a round two, like a second one. But I think this was really good. I think people have the same questions that you have.
Yeah. No, I think I learned a lot. It's definitely getting me, thinking more. I love I love the idea that you keep bringing up about that it's deeper. There's so many different layers to it, and intuitive eating allows you to go deep and help people understand why they're doing X, Y, and Z. And I think for
Hmm.
me, um, and my journey, that was important also. And I got to look up some more information. You have some good books for me to read, Gila,
Yes,
about like
you could first of all start with the intuitive eating book, Intuitive
okay,
Eating. Health at Every Size is really good. I really like the book Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. So she's like one of the leaders like that really paved the way of like she had the first intuitive eating podcast. She has a podcast called Food Psych, which is like a bit political, but also really good. And she just came out with another book. I think it's called The Wellness Trap. She's like she talks a lot about how now it's like wellness culture. There's also a book called Unapologetic Eating by somebody who had on the podcast, Alyssa Ramsey. There's so many books now on intuitive eating. There's how to raise intuitive eaters if you want to learn about the dynamic with kids. There's also all of Ellen Satter's books. She's a dietitian and a social worker who created this division of responsibility. There's so much out there, you know?
it's so crazy, and I think this was also a really good final thought. Like I'm watching you and listening to you talk, and I'm seeing your face and your eyes literally light up when you talk about this.
Right.
I'm like,
I
it's
do
so
love it.
cool to be able to be in a field where like you're passionate about what you do, and it makes you like so amazing at what you do, and it's super, really inspirational. And yeah, it's like yeah, I really
Thanks.
think
I think no,
it's
but I think like
inspirational.
if you listen, go back to some of my earlier episodes, like I talk about this a lot, how like intuitive eating could lead to like intuitive living. And like I really do feel like that happened to me. Like I was working at a job that I hated. I was working in nursing homes, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Like I'm gonna be stuck here forever. And like that, like limiting beliefs. Like we talk about that a lot with like Brene Brown. And like
Renee,
yeah.
my girl, I love Renee. Everyone,
Renee, we're on like, first name basis. But
so
like
cool.
no, just like getting like, learning like so many people tell me that like they just feel so stuck in their job, but like what are they going to do? They can't pay the bills, and it's like you don't have to be stuck. So I think this is also this is like one of those things like people think they're going to be on a diet forever and they're going to always have a weight issue and they're quote unquote and they're always going to have to blah blah blah, and it's like intuitive eating is like totally like blowing that up in your face. Like you don't have to subscribe to that, and that's kind of like why I think it's so powerful.
I very much relate to that. I'm saying you know, I'm stuck, so to speak, in my DOE job. Anyone that works for the DOE, like we all share this. We're like it's a blessing and a curse at the same time
Right.
because so much to give, you can't give it up because there's so much that you're, so to speak, getting for it. But I think that's part of the reason why I do my side things that I do because
Mm-hmm.
I need some passion in my life. I
Right.
need things that excite me.
Right.
And I'm constantly working and looking for things that excite me and new projects and just things that build, meaning in my life, which I think is
Totally.
super important. So we
Totally.
can't just live life like mundane, like it's just, I don't know. You got life is filled with meaning. You have to just find it and find what works for you.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for coming on. This was really awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you so much for having me, Gila.
Sure. Thank you.